Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So tonight we're going to talk about 3 common nutrition myths. And as always, just a reminder, our program is powered by Healthy Steps Nutrition. And at Healthy Steps, we believe something that's as fundamental as nutrition should not be complicated. And this is why we focus on our simple habit-based approach to help you reach your goals one step at a time. So while I'm talking about one myth that I knew from growing up, I would like to hear about yours. So when you get a chance, go ahead and put it in the comment section of something that you've heard. Even if you're not sure if it is a myth or not, but just something around food, nutrition, fitness that sounds like it might be a myth or sounds maybe too good to be true. Go ahead and put that in the comment section. But something that I remember hearing when I was younger was you shouldn't eat past 7 p.m. That was something that I heard all the time is don't eat too late. Make sure you don't eat right before bed. Oh shoot, my computer just came unplugged and I don't want it to die on you guys. But it was you shouldn't eat past 7 p.m. So it was said that if you ate that late that you would gain weight. This was said so many times I truly believed it. And in fact, it often made me scared of certain foods and that like somehow a 70-calorie cookie would turn into like this 700-calorie thing. Um, and it led to a lot of food fear around that time of night of restricting at bedtime. And that led to some other things. So it's really important to understand where these food myths are coming from, what is actually happening, and that foods don't magically become higher in calories or promote extra weight gain based on a certain time. So, why do so many of us hear that narrative? While eating foods after a certain time doesn't magically change, causing you or anyone to gain weight, it may make it harder to reach a weight loss goal. The truth is that eating late has the potential to disrupt your quality of sleep, making it harder for you to make better choices throughout the day, as your body is looking for those quick energy sources. So when we eat at night, specifically things higher in fat and sugar, often found in sweet treats, our blood sugar isn't going to be stable, which changes our sleep patterns, which in turn affects our hormones the following day. We will have elevated cortisol and ghrelin levels, which can lead to more cravings. We all will also have a lower amount of hormones called leptin. So if you remember from other talks, we have ghrelin and leptin, and those are our hunger hormones. Leptin is our satiety hormone. It tells us that we're full. And ghrelin, you can think of it as like that little gremlin that tells you that you're hungry. Um, and because of this, a perfect storm to overconsume can happen. So it's not that the myth is eating this is going to cause you to gain weight. It's eating certain foods at certain times can kind of disrupt things. And we know this not only at bedtime, but we know this throughout the day too. If we're not eating a good quality breakfast and we're eating, say, a donut but nothing else, then we're probably going to continue on a trail where we're not eating these nutrient dense meals and we're snacking and overeating and kind of spiraling, which leads to that weight gain. So I'd love to hear some of yours. Let's see really quick. Grapefruit juice burns fat. Okay. I've heard some of these things too, and we'll get into something similar to this at the end of or towards the end of the talk. But yeah, I've heard some things like certain juices. There's lemon water is going to help you burn extra body fat if you drink it first thing in the morning. There's a couple other myths out there around beverages that help you lose weight. And truthfully, proper hydration is something that can really support weight loss because it helps keep us full and our body function properly. We have one more chiming in right now. Cinnamon reduces insulin impact. It actually can. So that I would say is not a myth, but you have to have the right type of cinnamon. So you want to have it's CEYLON, and that can actually help with the I forget the whole mechanism, but it does have a benefit on blood sugar. But eating cinnamon alone is not going to change your blood sugar response. You can't just sprinkle it on candy and hope for results. But if you add it to things like um, to oatmeal, that can really help, or yogurt, that can help with different things. But it's all about overall creating that balance. There's no like one magic tip. So instead of worrying about the time of day that we're eating, or instead of worrying about, it's too late, we should focus more on the quality of our food sources and balance throughout the day. So if you feel hungry after dinner because it's been a long day, go ahead, but eat something mindfully. Um, Grab something that's higher in protein, higher in fiber, more whole food based, rather than something that's higher in sugar or highly processed. Um, Something that we could look at is like a good quality balanced cookie. So if you're someone who likes sweets, we can make sweets taste really good. Like there's really good whole food based cookies. One that I like to buy frequently for my kids is the Alyssa's cookies at Publix. Those are fantastic. They're high in fiber. They give you that little sweetness. Or doing something with like Greek yogurt. There's lots of things that we can do at night if we're having that sweet craving, but don't want to kind of lead to this imbalance that it might cause. All right. So that was an example of a nutrition myth and how it's not serving us or our goals. So today we're going to dive into three of the biggest nutrition myths, where they stem from, why they aren't factual, and what you should do instead. So the first myth is carbs make you gain weight. I hear this one all the time, and it's one of the most frustrating things. So who has heard that carbs are going to make you gain weight? Yeah, we got a hand up. Yeah, probably all of us. There's a wide assumption that carbohydrate intake leads to weight gain. And the idea of demonizing carbohydrates is not a new concept. In fact, it is cynical, and it takes popularity with a lot of these fad diets that we've heard of, like the Atkins, South Beach, low carb, high protein, high fat. And a lot of people have done the ketogenic diet recently. The sad part is many of the people telling you carbohydrates are responsible for your weight gain are profiting off of this. So the people who are creating these diets are profiting from telling you these are bad. Um, the in March, or sorry, so they are profiting so much that by 2027, the ketogenic diet market is predicted to reach a global of $15.6 billion. Their business would be crushed if you found out the truth of carbohydrates and how they don't make you fat at all. So, carbohydrates are a primary source of fuel. When we eat carbs, they get broken down into simple sugars called monosaccharides, and in order to be absorbed, it must be in its simplest form. When we absorb, or when absorption happens, a rise in our blood sugar will stimulate the release of insulin. And without insulin, our body cannot take up the glucose and use it as energy. So when we eat carbohydrates, our body first uses the sugar in the blood as quick energy source. Once our cells have taken in enough energy, our liver takes control to turn that excess sugar into glycogen as an energy source later on, which is mainly stored in our muscles and our liver. We need to remember that there's only so much storage room in our bodies, so anything in excess will be converted into fat for long-term storage on our body. Now, you're probably thinking, didn't you just say carbohydrates won't make me fat? Well, the fat stored from carbohydrates is normal and essential for everyday function. So we do not need to eat every minute of our day for our bodies to move, or to get the glucose for the required energy. So we are able to turn that fat into usable glucose when needed. And remember, any macronutrient consumed in excess, even protein, will be stored as fat on the body. And this is why eating in a calorie deficit is actually the most important key to weight loss. If you need even more proof that carbs do not make you fat, here it is. So there's 32 different studies that showed no weight loss benefit from eating a low carb diet over a high carb diet when the calories are the same. This means that calories and energy expenditure were controlled in those studies. So that's all they measured. And the only thing different were the carb intakes. So they had some groups do higher amounts of carbs with the same amount of calories, and some groups do lower amounts of carbs with the same amount of calories. And there was no significant difference in weight loss found. So now you know. Oh, we have a new message. So fast or juice or cabbage diet to lose weight. So yeah, that's another really good myth that I've heard, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later too, with some of these beverages to promote weight loss. So by now you know that the carbs are our main source of energy. It's also our brain's preferred source of energy. So why try to restrict carbohydrates? It's like trying to run your car on an empty gas tank. Instead, we need to have more consistent and moderate intake of carbohydrates paired with our protein and our fat throughout the day. This way, we can feel more satisfied at meal times, feel fuller for longer, and since we don't have time to eat every second of the day, aren't you glad that your body can save a little bit of that energy for later? Imagine having to fill up your gas tank every time you left the house. It would be exhausting. The best way to do this is by following the plate method, for example, or the hand portion guides, and incorporating these in our main meals throughout the day. The plate method is the easiest way to reshape your plate because you can just visualize. You don't have to count calories. You don't have to do any of that. You can just look. So remember, the plate method is half your plate of those non-starchy vegetables, a fourth of your plate from those lean protein sources, a fourth from those good whole food carbohydrate sources, and adding some healthy fats on top of this. And so you may be wondering which carbs are better. And when we incorporate carbs, what we first want to do is just focus on whole foods. So without even thinking about better or worse, just focus more on those whole foods. So these are going to be things like fruits, root vegetables, potatoes, whole grains, all of those natural source forms of carbohydrates. Next, you can consider the glycemic index. And what that is, so remember the insulin thing that we discussed earlier, that all depends on the glycemic index of the food. So the assigned glycemic index tells us how much our blood sugar will spike, thus how much insulin our body needs to release in order to bring it back down after eating. We should prioritize lower glycemic foods when we can. However, incorporating more moderate and high glycemic carbs is better like earlier in their day, before workouts, or when our cells need more sugar from those carbohydrate sources. So, just some things to kind of think about. There's ways that we can program these all into. And before we get on to the next myth, those lower carb, ketogenic style diets, those all have a place and a time, but ketogenic is a therapeutic diet, so any of these fad diets, some of them actually do have a place and research behind it, and that's where like the ketogenic diet has gained a ton of popularity because of its neuroprotective benefits and things like that. But it's not designed for everyone, and I see so many people do that diet incorrectly, even in the therapeutic setting. I've had clients on ketogenic diets, and there's a specific way, and we actually still incorporate these whole food carbohydrate sources. We still need to get our fiber in. We still need to get some of these carbohydrates in. It's just in specific amounts. So don't let anyone tell you that carbs are bad. They are so beneficial for us and have a purpose, and we just have to tailor it specifically to you and what your goal is. But majority of people need about 40% of their total calories for the day from carbohydrate sources. And then that may go up or down depending on your activity level, and some other areas that we might be looking at as well. So now we just talked about like carbohydrates pre-workout. So the next myth is training fasted is better. This was a big time myth circulating around in all areas of health and wellness, and fitness, but it was extremely popular for bodybuilders and for those aiming to lose weight quickly. Maybe you've heard of the claim that doing cardio fasted or before eating anything would allow you to burn more fat. This stems back from the late 90s when a fitness pro wrote a book on a chapter theorizing that aerobic exercise in the morning can optimize fat loss when fasted. So, where did this myth really stem from? Well, the rationale behind this was that when we go a long time without eating, aka fasting, our body uses the sugar in our body for energy, followed by the glycogen, which is the stored carbohydrate typically found in our muscle tissue. After these energy sources are depleted, our body has no other option but to rely on fat for its energy. With this kind of explanation, it seems promising, right? But here's where the myth took off. Because the idea swept the bodybuilding community with influencers who looked the way many people wanted, more people were skipping the reading about all of the details of this and just took it as fact. Enter the area of lethargic looking workouts. So when we train fasted, there's a significant decline in performance. Not only will fasted training lead to fatigue and hunger, but also the inability to focus. CrossFit and other moderate to high intensity workouts require stored energy for good performance. If there is no food to replenish the energy storage, you will not be able to squat, press, deadlift as much weight, and this is because your fuel tank is empty and you quite literally have no energy to expend. So, fasted training does not influence weight loss or lasting change in body composition. Many people think that skipping out on meals before the gym will compensate for the calories they eat after the gym. More than likely, you might overcompensate, or the missing calories, or even overeat, especially if you're hungry. I know I've done this where I have gone into a workout depleted and then I'm exhausted and I'm fatigued and I'm starving, and then I go and I eat a much higher calorie, maybe not so nutrient dense meal, and I tend to overeat and then I feel kind of crummy. So really thinking about these things ahead of time. And fat oxidation is also a term that you may hear around this myth, but just know that fat oxidation is always happening. So there's no reason to try to increase it by training faster or fasted. So, a recent study looked at these effects of fasted versus non-fasted exercise on calorie intake, subjective hunger, and energy expenditure. This recent meta-analysis found that within the groups who practiced fasted exercise did reduce their daily calorie intake, but they also reported their higher hunger level and lower energy expenditure, meaning calories burned throughout the day compared to the unfasted groups. So they were burning less, eating a little bit less, but because they're not burning less, we're not seeing that tick to improve that weight loss. So in fact, they burned about 10 calories per hour less. So not anything crazy. And actually less than what you would do in a fed state. So not only does this meta-analysis show us that fasted exercise does not increase or boost our metabolism, but also found that fasted exercise decreases our overall performance in the gym. These findings resulted in no difference in body fat loss between the fasted and unfasted exercise groups. So when we train, we use our glycogen stores to create energy from carbohydrates we consume. As we have seen that fasted exercise does not benefit fat loss, we recommend eating before and after you work out to not only help with performance, but also help with energy expenditure throughout the day and hunger levels. A good rule of thumb is to eat a pre-workout snack, such as an applesauce pouch for a quick carbohydrate, with a little bit of protein, like protein powder. You can do deli meat, non-fat Greek yogurt, and aim to consume this about 30 to 60 minutes prior to your activity. So if you're someone who works out in the morning, having something simple can really, really help. I know I talk to a lot of people who are just not hungry before their workouts in the morning, but having just a little something. I had one client who would just eat like a fig or two just to get a little bit of something, and his performance skyrocketed because now he had something to go off of. And then over time, we were able to build up a more quality snack once his body started to adapt too. So if you feel like you just can't tolerate it and then you feel heavy in your workouts, we have to start light and build from there. So now, myth number 3, detox products rid the body of toxins. So this kind of goes in line with some of what you guys are saying, like the grapefruit juice burns fat, fast, the juice of cabbage to help lose your weight, or help with weight loss, things like that. So odds are you've seen marketing for some type of detox, whether it's in the form of a juice, a tea, or even a pill. At a quick glance, they seem like something worthwhile when trying to lose weight or decrease bloating. They make claims such as it remove impurities from the body in the from the blood and in the liver, where toxins are processed for elimination, and also eliminates toxins in the kidneys, intestines, and your skin. You may even see before and after pictures showing people who look significantly different after just 3 to 5 days of detoxing. Detox teas, juices, and cleanses are everywhere and easily accessible. To many of us, this might not seem like a red flag, but let's dive in. We talked about how much the keto diet industry is making, but what about the global detox market? So last year it was valued at over $51 billion. Cold pressed juices, teas, supplements, herbs, and other similar products promise to cleanse the body, making over $51 billion. Oh, 1 to 3 juice cleanse on average costs between $60 to $200, which is crazy. You would think that they would work considering people are spending so much money on them, but really they're just a big scam. So the first thing these companies do is convince you that your body has toxins and there's something wrong with you. If you have concerns, you should see a healthcare professional instead of turning to the internet. The teas and the products you see celebrities using are not going to fix an actual toxin that gets into your body. Say, for instance, if you're exposed to smoke or environmental waste, then these are not going to help rid that from your body. Most detox teas contain diuretics, and diuretics, sometimes called water pills, help your body excrete water along with electrolytes. Due to this flushing, you will notice weight loss, but it's not toxins being removed from your body, nor is it the body losing fat. The human body is very fascinating, and it's equipped with more than we think, especially when it comes to detoxifying itself to keep us alive. The liver and kidneys are our main components of our body's detoxifying system. As we know that these detox products can cause dehydration, it starts to become more clear that these products can actually cause more harm than good. Major dehydration can cause damage to the body and specifically the function of your kidneys. And this is ironic because if your body was able to detoxify naturally, your kidneys don't need to work, like they don't need this extra support to work. Um, they just work on their own with coordination of the liver and our body's natural systems. So the liver is our most important tool when it comes to detoxifying our body, but we need to treat it well in order for it to do its thing. A great way to keep your liver functioning effectively and efficiently is by limiting our saturated fat, our sugar, and our alcohol consumption. This does not mean by cutting out those things 100%, but just incorporating them in more moderation and eating more of that whole food-based diet. So in just a few slides, we're going to discuss the three core principles of the plate method. Some of you have already heard me do this before, but in addition to our liver, we need to treat our kidneys well. And a good way to care for your kidneys is staying hydrated. So a good rule of thumb is consuming about 60 to 80 ounces of water throughout the day for most individuals, although your specific recommendations may vary. So our liver and kidneys do a very good job at or they are very good at their job and don't need the help of these extra detox teas. It can handle its job on its own as long as we are taking care of our overall health. So now don't feel bad if you've fallen prisoner to one of these myths that are floating around in the diet industry. We are exposed to them every day, especially now with social media. The diet industry is making a killing on products that have little evidence to support them. They take your obsession with beauty, youth, thinness, and use it all against you to make a profit. If you have tried a diet in the past or a product that's claimed to do something that it didn't, don't worry because diets are and similar products tend to fail 95% of the time. So instead of turning to the internet or celebrities with little to no education in nutrition and health, reach out to myself or one of the team members at GC Healthy Living so that we can help support you on your journey. Now, that felt like a lot of information, so maybe you're wondering what are some of the basic things that we can do to start in reaching our goals and just feeding and nourishing our body. So while cutting through all the noise of the diet industry is great, it's a lot. I mean, there's constantly products that I'm seeing, this new protein powder, this new collagen, this new supplement, this new diet that I did, the what I eat in a days, all these things are always around us. So it's good to just kind of bring it back down to some simple principles. And the first one is adding more whole foods into your diet. So you've heard us talk about this before. Just making sure we're incorporating more whole foods and taking it back to that plate method. Start choosing whole food options with less processed foods packed with sodium, fat, and sugar, and use the plate method to kind of get a grasp as how to balance out your meals. Remember, half your plate non-starchy vegetables, a fourth of your plate lean protein, a fourth starchy carbohydrates, and mindful of healthy fats. Secondly, focus on that balance. When we say balance, we mean having a protein, a carbohydrate, a fat source in our meals and our snacks. Pairing our meals and our snacks with all three of these macronutrients help keeps us full for longer and keeps us satisfied, keeps our blood sugar happy, helps fuel our workouts. So all of the above. And then limit the added sugar. So a reminder that AHA recommends no more than 6 teaspoons for women and 9 for men. And the average person consumes over 150 pounds of sugar per year. So that's 46 teaspoons per day, which is crazy. Not surprising, sugar is super addictive and feels hidden in almost every food product that you find. So turn those product labels around, look for these things, start to just be mindful of the foods that we're consuming. Okay, and before I open it up to some questions, we're going to look at some just basic facts or frequently asked questions. So how do I choose a good supplement? This is something I get asked all the time, and I actually used to work in the supplement industry. I used to work for Vitamin Shop corporate, and I worked for a couple protein companies. I worked for Oh Yeah Nutrition and Muscle Milk. Um, and I learned a lot about the supplement industry, and I love supplements. I think they can be fantastic when utilized properly and when we are choosing the right sources. But they are supplements. They are designed to supplement our diet, um, not to replace anything. So we need to look at a lot of different things when we're choosing why we're taking a supplement. So choosing a safe and effective supplement can be quite confusing. They are not regulated like drugs, meaning that they are not reviewed for safety and efficacy before they hit the shelves. So it's really important to know how to navigate what you're actually looking for. So, a good first step is to talk to your doctor or registered dietitian to see if you even need that supplement. So, remember, eating a variety of whole foods will get you a lot of those necessary nutrients that you need. So, a supplements are to supplement and not replace. If you're looking to supplements, choose a brand that's tested and trusted by third party. You want to make sure that they are doing third party testing on all of their supplements. Look for products labeled with things like NSF, Informed Choice, NSP International, or Consumer Lab Seal. That's telling you that what's in the product is actually in it. If it does not have that on there, we have no idea if you're actually getting what you are buying. The number three to look at with supplements is to look at the claims that it's saying on there too. So understand why you're taking it, if you actually need it, make sure it's third party tested in a trusted brand, and then look at the claims that they're trying to make on it. If a product claims that it will cure a disease, it's all natural, money back guarantee, be cautious. It's the same thing when we're buying food or different products. These things are often too good to be true. Um, and be cautious when purchasing supplements made outside of the US, as many are not regulated and contain extra ingredients that might not be beneficial to our bodies. So, in terms of supplements, just do your research, look at brands, and then revisit the brand too, because oftentimes things change. Now, with the whole foods, we want to make sure we're getting these into our diet, but what if you don't like vegetables? I've heard this many, many times. The biggest thing is let's try different ways of cooking them, preparing them, hiding them into things. How can we utilize them in our diet? There's so many different ways that we can sneak vegetables in without actually trying to eat just raw broccoli or steamed broccoli and make it really easy and enjoyable to consume. So just keep trying different methods. That's the biggest thing. And then on this journey of getting to our health goals, just where do I start? Start with one thing at a time. Do not try to be perfect. Perfection is not going to exist. And even in the day to day lives, when we've really balanced out things, life can throw us curveballs and we have to adjust with it. So, when we're trying to make a bunch of different changes and work towards a goal, let's focus on one thing at a time and build from there. So, maybe it's something you've already have in mind, or maybe it's one of the things that we've previously discussed, but the best and fastest way to reach your goals is to work on one thing at a time and consistently build. So that might be starting with breakfast, that might be starting with increasing movement, simple things like that. And now today we've talked about three popular myths, including carbs make you gain weight, training faster is better, and even popular detox trends. With all the noise out there, we understand that it can be hard to find the right action plan to take, and we want to help you build confidence with this whole process. So, please always reach out to us if you have any questions or concerns along the way. But now I will open it up for some questions. Does anyone have any questions about myths? Any things that you guys have heard that sound maybe a little bit too good to be true?
Good to be true. Nicole, I have a question. Do you have any thoughts on berberine supplement?
Yeah, and those can be fantastic. A lot of people compare them to like a natural GLP-1. And it can support that hunger hormone. And really, what I think berberine is researched with is stabilizing your blood sugar. Um, if we, there's other supplements out there like the cinnamon that we talked about. There's Gemina silvestri. These are all kind of within that same family.
Okay.
And you have to be kind of careful if you are on insulin or anything that's going to like help you already reduce your blood sugar, because it can cause you to go hypoglycemic. But berberine can be a fantastic tool in just helping balance out our blood sugar, and a lot of people even report that they feel satisfied on it.
Okay.
Typically, you want to just one, I would make sure that you're getting it from a good source. Check with your doctor first to see if it's necessary, if we need it to help with our blood sugar. But that is one that is research and can be beneficial if used properly, but you want to make sure that you're using it correctly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a question that how do you know if your leptin is out of whack and how do you address it? So leptin and ghrelin are those two hunger hormones. So leptin keeps us satisfied, ghrelin keeps us hungry. So what I always like to say is a good rule of thumb is if we are ravenous, like we eat a meal and we are ravenous shortly after, within an hour to 2 hours, that's telling me our leptin and our ghrelin levels are out of whack a little bit. We want to kind of stabilize that. A good rule of thumb is every 3 to 4 hours. So if we can eat a meal, so say breakfast, we're eating a meal and we have balanced it out for 3 to 4 hours and then we're hungry again. That tells me we have a good sugar or like balanced of our hormones and how our body's utilizing it, and we've had a good nutrient dense meal. Now, sometimes things can get tricky because we can ignore these signs, and it's good to feel hunger. It's our body working. We should be able to feel that we're a little bit hungry. We don't want to get to that ravenous stage, but we want to feel a little bit of that hunger. Um, the imbalance, what I see a lot is we are so busy throughout the day. So we wake up, we maybe eat a slight breakfast, and then we just go on with our day and we're busy, 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 busy. And then we get home and we're exhausted. And then we kind of binge on dinner or snack around dinner while we're making dinner. And then we're full, but even sometimes still, like it hasn't satisfied things and we're snacking after dinner. That tells me we have a big imbalance in our hunger hormones and we need to refresh that and move things around. And sometimes it's forcing ourselves to eat when we don't necessarily feel it because we have to work on balancing things out. So if we're not eating consistently, say 3 meals a day that are balanced and spaced about 3 to 4 hours apart, if we're not doing that, that's telling me there's something that might be going on with our leptin and our ghrelin. If you're feeling hungry at random times, if you're feeling fatigued at random times, if you're just not hungry at all and we're not eating very much, that tells me that there's an imbalance. Did that answer some of that? There's a lot that we need to look into with leptin and ghrelin, and it's all about how our body's structured throughout the day and making sure that we're getting in the nutrition that we need. I know oftentimes when I balance out my day really, really well, I get to the end of the day and I'm satisfied. Like I am good. I don't need anything extra, and it feels good to not feel like you're craving food at the end of the night. Um, and then I look back, I'm like, yes, I did great with my fiber. I did great with my protein. I ate really well balanced meals. I did great with my hydration. So there's lots of things that can disrupt our leptin and our ghrelin. So if you feel like you're out of balance and we're not losing weight, we don't have good energy, we're not sleeping well, we feel sluggish, all these different things, talk to myself, talk to one of the team members because there is something going on that we need to tweak. So I read that cortisol is responsible for not losing weight after menopause. I'm 73 and have been following the work I did with you and Mayo Clinic, and I'm not using losing the weight. So cortisol is a big factor. And when we get past menopause, especially as women, we go through so many hormonal changes throughout our life. Um, we have to look at so many different factors. And when we are in menopause, postmenopausal, there's different things that we have to address. The first thing is making sure we're getting enough protein, getting enough fiber. Those are the keys and the foundation of what our diet needs to surround. If we are not getting 30 grams plus of fiber in per day, we need to start there. If we're not getting in around 100 grams of protein per day, we need to start there. And that might vary depending on different health conditions, but those are two of my big points that once we start to do that, we see a lot of results. Then we need to look at hormone balancing and what's going on, and if there's things that we need to do. Sometimes it's actually using hormonal replacement therapy and getting on either some estrogen or some testosterone. Sometimes it's making sure that our omega-3, omega-6 balance is correct. It could be our activity, just switching things up a little bit. Our body needs, especially as women, we need a lot of resistance training later in life too to help prevent osteoporosis, osteopenia. Looking at our sleep, sometimes it's just our sleep and our stress levels. So, and that's where that cortisol can come in. So making sure we're balancing all these things out, it's can be really, really tricky. But the place I would always start with is, are we getting enough protein? And there's a lot of research out lately where we see a lot of people getting in protein at dinner, but we're not getting good protein in throughout the day. And nutrient timing is really important too. We can't just eat this one large meal. So making sure we're getting in good protein at breakfast, making sure we're getting in protein at midday and at dinner before bed, making sure we're balancing out our protein intake, making sure we're getting in that fiber and that variety of fiber to nourish our gut, which is going to balance out our hormones. Um, Getting in different fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, all these things are really beneficial. And certain vegetables actually have beneficial qualities to help fight off the bad estrogen. So, like cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, those can actually be super, super beneficial in combating bad estrogen. But then we're looking at movement. There's all these different moving parts, and that's where following these myth diets or these fads or things like that don't work because they're not applied to us. We have to look at so many different factors, especially when the weight's getting sticky, to see what is going on and what do we need to change. And it might be one little thing that we're not even thinking of. It could be just water. I've seen that where we just increase our water intake and we start to see things moving again. It could be that our calorie intake is not where it should be and we need to reassess. Um, all these different things, eating too little, eating too much. It's really tricky, and that's where working with a team member can really help because we're analyzing all of this stuff for you.